training. We started this is our third week. And the gradual training is a fleshing out of the Noble Eightfold Path, which we recited the chant of. That's going to hurt your sciatica. I think you should take a chair. Okay, thank you. Anyway, let's start with a little quiz. So what's the first step on the gradual training?
Buddha.
Pardon me?
Buddha.
Yes, so Marilyn said Buddha. So Buddha means awake. And so we need, to start on the path, we need somebody who wakes up to what's reality, how reality works, and then teaches it to others. And so we call that person a Buddha. And we have, in our time period, we have Gautama Buddha, who lived quite some time ago in India. So we have step one. And what's step two?
Practice.
Something before that.
You come in contact with the Buddha.
Say that again?
Come in contact with the Buddha.
Correct. You have to hear the teachings. Doesn't do much good if he's way over in India and we're over here. We've never heard him. So thank goodness we've had that opportunity. We've heard the teachings. And what's step three? Do you believe everything you hear? No. So what has to happen when you hear the teachings?
You have to have faith.
Well, you have to have some kind of inspiration. Yeah, you have to have that little germ of faith starting, like, oh, this sounds like maybe it's a way to come to the end of suffering. And so you need to feel some kind of a little bit of inspiration or hope or faith or something that gives you the energy to start out on this Noble Eightfold Path. And then, so now we're at the point, we've got a Buddha that's someone who's woken up to truth. They've taught it to others. We've heard it, and we felt inspired enough or enough faith to step onto the path. And so when we step onto the path, what's our first step?
Apply the teaching.
But specifically, what's the first step?
Practice.
Understand the truth.
No.
Sanghamitta, would it be right view?
There's a little bit of that, but that comes with what we hear, so that's what we get inspired with, that we have a little glimpse of right view. But what's the first action we take?
The morality.
Yes, Silka got it. So our first action that we take on the path is looking at our moral behavior. Okay, and now we're on the next step, and it's a beautiful one. It's contentment. And it kind of fits in with morality if we look at the Noble Eightfold Path, because if we're contented, then we're not going to be going out there and being tempted to break our moral precepts. And also, it's laying the basis for the last step of the path, which is right stillness. If we're contented, then that's leading towards stillness. So contentment is a way of making peace, of letting go, which is basically a method of overcoming the hindrances to meditation. And that's our huge amount of work that we need to do with our meditation practices, overcoming all the hindrances to it. So contentment, it travels down this middle way, avoiding craving on the one side and ill will on the other side. So staying in the middle, in this present moment awareness, we're not moved by all the winds of craving or all the winds of ill will. And contentment is the opposite of restlessness. So it's immediately addressing the first three hindrances: craving, ill will, and restlessness. Contentment has a really beautiful emotional warmth to it. When we're contented, like we're savoring the present moment. And it's bringing us kind of inward to what is. Craving and ill will and restlessness are sort of taking us out into the external world, whereas contentment is bringing us in to what's already here. Desire is sort of, if we're desiring something, it means it's not here, so we're being pulled into the future. Ill will can be about something happening right now, or it can be remembering something that's happened and feeling upset or angry about it. So that could be pulling us to the past. Contentment's right here, right now. And so it's really beautiful. It means that we get our goal. If our goal is contentment, we have it right now. It's not something we're going to get in the future. It's right here, right now. And in a way, contentment is looking at the cup half full. Like at any moment in life, you're rarely, if ever, going to have a perfect moment. So that means there's going to be some positive aspects to the present moment and some negative aspects to the present moment. And so which one are you going to focus on? If we focus on the positive aspect, the cup half full, then that's contentment. Now, this doesn't mean as householders that we have to toss away all of our goals in life. But for the goals that are important for us, and while we're putting in the causes and conditions to realize those things, we don't want to say to ourselves, I'm not going to be happy until I've got that goal. Because then you're just condemning yourself to unhappiness until this thing that may or may not happen, happens. So if you do have a goal, you can put in the causes and conditions to up the ante of it happening, but you want to come back to this present moment and look at how you can be content right now, even before this goal is achieved. When you make contentment your goal when you're meditating, it means that when you're sitting on the cushion, you're having a real holiday. It may not be perfect, but it's good enough. Being content allows our doer, like there's two parts to sort of our brain, our knower, what this aspect that sort of has awareness or mindfulness of what's going on, and then our doer that's into, let's do this, let's do that. Always keeping us moving, busy, restless. So if we stay in the present moment and we're content with it, it's like we're saying to our doer, you can have a holiday, you can rest, you can lie on the beach, you don't have to do anything right now. So it's very, very peaceful. And it means at that moment then you've overcome a large number of the hindrances. Now, having contentment is different from being complacent. If we see some wrongdoing happening, we can speak out about it, but we use our contentment to be content with however it is that we've spoken out or acted, and being content regardless of what the outcome is. Because just because we see some wrongdoing and because we take some steps, to counter it, doesn't mean we're going to be effective. But if we've had the good intention to try and make things better, even if it doesn't work out, we can be content with, we made our effort, and this is just the reality. We can't always make the world be the way we want it to be. Contentment forgives the imperfections of life because it understands that imperfection is a reality. Perfection is not a reality. Imperfection is a reality. And so contentment understands that. If things had to be perfect for us to find peace, we'd be in big trouble. We'd be in big trouble. Venerable Chanda, she's a bhikkhuni, a Buddhist nun in England, and I had the good fortune of going on pilgrimage with her when I went to visit the famous places of the Buddha in India. And she said her practice has sort of evolved over the years. At first, her practice was object related, meaning she would just notice what was arising each moment. Now, she said, it's attitude based. She's noticing how is she relating to what's arising. What's her attitude to what's arising in each moment? Both in her daily life and on the cushion. So throughout the day. She said, we always have a choice of what we put between our experience and what we're experiencing. So whatever's happening, we have a choice of, how we're going to sort of relate to that. And she said she's putting a lot of emphasis on kindness, harmlessness, letting go, making peace with her experience. So letting go is another term for renunciation, which means loosening our grip on things, like not trying to hold on to something we want that's ending, and not trying to push away the unwanted. Letting go of some idealistic, impossible vision of life means making peace with the reality of what is arising in the moment, rather than huffing and puffing and saying it shouldn't be this way, because this is the reality of how it is. So we need to deal with that, not just wish it wasn't happening or getting upset that it's happening. And remembering that people are just the way, being the only way they can be because of all the past causes and conditions in their life. We may not like how other people are behaving or what they're saying or whatever, but they're just the way they are because of past causes and conditions. So we don't want to add to the negativity experience of the second arrow. So the first arrow we're shot is all the negative things that happen in life. And the second arrow is the one that we reach down onto the ground and pick up and stab ourselves with. And that's with going like, why me? This shouldn't have happened. I don't like this. We're just increasing our suffering like tenfold by all of this sort of whining about the first arrow. So we don't want to make anything worse than it already is. So the Buddhist path is always about turning towards our experience. And so of course that means at times turning towards suffering. So the big question is, how do we turn towards suffering skillfully? The basic teaching of the Buddha are the Four Noble Truths. The first truth being that suffering exists. The second truth, that it's due to our desires or craving. The third truth is the good news that we can end this suffering. And the fourth truth is the Noble Eightfold Path, the path that leads us to the end of suffering. And we have a duty towards each of these truths. And the duty towards the first truth, that there's suffering, is to understand it. Then we can let it go. But we want to turn towards the suffering and understand it, get clear about it before we let it go. So the problem with a lot of us is that we try and sort of push it away before we've really understood it. So then they just keep coming back and biting us over and over again. So how can contentment help us to let go? And the big thing is by the holding technique that I've sort of talked about so many times here, but just in brief, the holding technique is when we're experiencing something negative, unpleasant, or whatever, we want to get out of our head, because the stories that we tell ourselves or all the things that we say in our head are just adding fuel to the fire of this negative experience. We got to get out of our head. We come down into our body, do a scan of our body, and find out where's the tension that we're holding in reaction to this negative event in our life. And then holding is an analogy for holding a hurt child. We're the hurt child at this moment. We're hurting. So we just want to hold our attention onto this physical sensation with a lot of love, tenderness, and caring. It's like if you have a friend who's upset and you just sit down beside them, maybe put your arm around them, you're just there with them. So you're just here with your feelings, but you're not stabbing yourself with a second arrow by all the stories that you say in your head. You get out of your head, just down into your physical body, and just hold it until it settles down. And then when it settles down, then you can see more clearly. Like if you're feeling really emotional, it's like looking through a fog. You can't see anything clearly. So if you do the holding technique until things settle, then you can see clearly. And then at that point, you can make a decision when you're seeing clearly. Is it worthwhile to do something here? And if it is, what's the best timing? What's the best thing to do? Or is it better just to let it go, just let it be? But you only can decide that once you can see things clearly. And doing this holding technique just leads to a beautiful sense of lightness and spaciousness. So contentment, it helps us to let go, but it's also a product of letting go. The more we let go, the more peace and happiness that we experience. And contentment can be seen as a synonym for nibbana. Nibbana is the Pali word for awakening, enlightenment. And lots of people are more familiar with the Sanskrit version of it, nirvana. But in Pali it's nibbana. But it just means full awakening. And so we get it when we're in a really contented state. It gives us a taste of what nibbana can feel like, what full enlightenment can feel like. Now, another aspect of contentment is gratitude. Gratitude helps us to focus on what is present because we feel gratitude for what's present. In our meditation practice, if we're truly content with our meditation object, so if it's the breath, if you're truly content with this one breath that's happening right now, then there's no room for the past or future to come in. We're just right here, fully engaged. So there's just no space for the desires for the future, regrets for the past to come in. And this contentment with your meditation object, and if it's the breath, with the breath, if you have that contentment, it allows you to stay with your meditation object long enough for joy and happiness to arise. Because joy and happiness is a natural thing to arise when we're still, when we're quiet, when we're contented with the present moment. And the Pali terms for that are piti and sukha, joy and happiness. Discontent kills piti and sukha. If we're trying to be the best at something, then that's the opposite of contentment. When we're content, we don't worry if other people are better or worse than us. if there's a problem, a problem arising in your life, and you're not sure what you can do or not do, this brings in our Brahma Vihara, our beautiful emotion of equanimity. So equanimity is being able to look at things with unflappable calm, regardless of how wonderful or how awful they are. And so sometimes we're in situations where maybe we don't know what to do, or there is nothing we can do and it's a bad situation. So the more equanimity we can have with that, then the less suffering that we're going to have. So knowing this, if you can just accept this and be content with this is just the reality of the moment, nothing I can do or whatever, then that really helps us to not stray off into fear or to anger or to craving. Ajahn Brahm has a nice little saying. He said, looking at the future with a negative mind is fear. Looking at the future with a positive mind is hope. But he said, I don't do either. He just stays in the present moment. The cause of contentment is fewness of wishes. And somebody just gave us this little box of sayings by Ajahn Brahm, and one of them was, I want peace is an oxymoron. Peace happens when wanting ends. So I'll just say that again. I want peace is an oxymoron. Peace happens when wanting ends. So contentment also is an antidote for boredom. If you're sitting meditating, you're thinking, oh, how long before the bell rings, or nothing's happening, like I'm so bored. So boredom is like, it's taking some suffering in this present moment and extrapolating it into an endless future, thinking, oh, it's going to be, it's going to keep being like this. So again, if you can come back and be content, be totally engaged with your meditation object, then there's no space for boredom to arise. All restlessness, agitation comes from discontent. Another way to sort of increase the contentment of the present moment is just reflect on all the negative things that aren't there. Like you're not having to be rushing off doing something, or like you can just look at how peaceful and calm it is, and all the things that sometimes are in your life that aren't there at this moment. And then that helps you feel, oh, this is a real holiday I have here just right now. Just being here in the present moment. Don't have to do anything. You know you're content when you answer no to the question, is there anything else I'd rather be doing right now, or any way I'd rather be? You can say no, then that's true contentment. And we certainly want to be practicing contentment throughout the day, not just on the cushion, but throughout the day. And just practice being content with whatever's coming your way, like whatever your food is that you're eating, whatever the weather is, like whatever's going, you can practice just being content with, this is just the way it is. If there's, if things aren't good and there's something you can do about it, then for sure, go ahead and do that. But, we can't change the weather. So we're just creating suffering if we can't just accept it and be content with how it is. Okay, that was all I had to say, so we can open this up for discussion. Yes, Sujata.
Yeah, thank you, Sanghamitta. Can you hear me or should I lean closer to the?
No, you're loud and clear, Liz. We've got a good connection today.
Okay, good, good. Um, so thank you for this talk. And so what came to mind is how often I hear or read the word striving. And that word often, I'm not sure how to balance the striving with now contentment. I don't know if you have some thoughts
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, absolutely. So the striving, that's probably a translation for like the four right efforts. And that's a topic that's coming up because as we did our chant this morning, that was part of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the four efforts, they're aimed at four things. So the first two efforts are to do with the hindrances, and the second two efforts are to do with the seven factors of awakening. So we're wanting to, first of all, the first effort is to not allow the hindrances to appear. The second effort is if they have appeared, they have arisen, then to let it go. The third effort is if none of the factors of awakening are present, then you're making an effort to cause them to arise. You're putting in the causes and conditions for them to arise. And then the fourth effort is if the factors of awakening or some of the factors of awakening are there, you're putting in an effort to cause them to increase or stabilize or whatever. The big, I think, misunderstanding is what exactly is meant by the word effort. And effort is a translation, for a Pali word. So it's not meant to be like, sweat of the brow kind of effort. It's more like Ajahn Brahm often talks about wisdom power over willpower. And it's when we have the wisdom, like if a hindrance is present, we want to feel that as a hot coal in our hand. So then we don't have to take any effort to say, oh, come on, this is burning me. I really should let this go. If you feel a hot coal in your hand, you don't have to be talking to yourself. You're just going to be instantly letting it go. So that's more where the effort is sort of lying is just inclining our mind, like hearing the teachings, being aware of the hindrances, being aware of the seven factors of awakening. And so we're going to do the first, quote, effort by just being content with our meditation object. If we're content with our meditation object, that's what my whole talk was about today, we're not giving space for these hindrances to come. If they do come, then if we can feel them as a hot coal, then it's going to, then we're just going to automatically drop them. So it's not going to take, sweat of the brow kind of striving to let that go. So we'll be talking much more about this because this is coming up shortly. But does that sort of start to answer your question?
It does, Sanghamitta, and I think part of what I experience is it's difficult to feel that contentment. So how to develop it so that it does arise, because often it really feels like I'm pushing the river. I'm having to go upstream.
Yeah.
You
So
understand? Yeah.
So this goes back to the cup half full or the cup half empty. So if you're doing your practice, do you use breath or what do you use as your meditation object?
I'm sorting that out, Sanghamitta.
Okay.
I'm listening to guided meditations right now to sort of help me settle into it.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't say specifically this object.
Right, okay, so I'll just give you I'll talk about the breath because that's so common. But what I would encourage you, if you're listening to a guided meditation, that you sit for, start with at least 5 minutes at the end so you can just, you're not being pulled out to somebody's voice. Just, there's a lot of diversity there if you're listening to a voice and then, reference it to your body or whatever. If you can just have a little bit more unity and just be with your breath or whatever, even for 5 minutes, and then you can gradually increase that at the end, then I think that will be helpful. But it's going back to this analogy of the cup half full or the cup half empty. If you're with a breath, maybe there'll be some, I don't often feel negative aspects to my breath, but, maybe there won't be a perfect breath, but there's probably some part of that breath that's pleasant. Like the breath coming in and sort of expanding the lungs and the body a bit and then going out. It's a very soothing movement. So if you really focus on that, I'm sure you'll be able to find that sort of soothing quality or peaceful quality that goes with that. That's what you want to focus on. I mean, there may be something in the experience that is not perfect or not great, but there's going to be something in there that is. And so just find that and then focus on that. Yes, Jennifer.
Thank you for this talk today. I don't know, like when it comes to some of the translations, sometimes too, like the word contentment, is kind of something maybe a little bit more challenging to, okay, I'm trying to be content. But I found, using the word gratitude, and just being thankful for all what I have had has been a really great way to kind of, initiate, contentment. And yet this word is never really used in Buddhism, that, in terms of gratitude, so can you maybe explain or, um, maybe elaborate on the difference between these kind of, the different words, like,
Um,
or does it really matter? Like if you invoking some kind of way in which to bring more contentment into your life, does that really matter?
yeah, here Aya just said that she has some thoughts that she'd like to share with you, but
Sure.
I mean, gratitude was part of my, I brought that into the talk. It's, I don't think it's something foreign to Buddhism, and I agree with you. It's a beautiful way, bringing to mind gratitude for what we do have is a beautiful way to lead to contentment. But here, Aya is going to share some ideas with you.
There is, the Pali word for gratitude is katanyu. So it is in the Pali Canon, not a lot. It's in the Mangala Sutta and it's paired with contentment. And it's saying, the Buddha's saying that yes, this is a key to happy states of mind. It's a key to, countering craving and ill will. Contentment and gratitude. So they are related, and they are related in the Pali Canon, in the Buddha's teachings. And there's also a sutta in the Anguttara that talks about how rare it is to find one that is grateful. I think the reason that there's more in the canon, and this is just my own opinion, it could definitely be challenged or be off, but if it's useful, because this is something I asked Ajahn Sona about early on, like why isn't gratitude one of the paramis, and etc. etc. So certainly something I've thought about, and I think contentment is emphasized more than gratitude because there's something about contentment that has a little bit more present momentness to it. It's not all my stuff and all my experiences. It's like right now, right here, this breath. And I think there's also something a little bit more of non-self in contentment. Gratitude, not that it's a very, very useful practice, and it's something that's getting a lot of airtime right now in the West, but there can be quite a bit of reinforcement of some of our identities in gratitude. It's still useful, and for many people, I think it's a doorway to contentment. And there's plenty in the canon that talk about whatever you're doing, if it's working, if there are more wholesome mind states arising and unwholesome mind states decreasing, do it. So Jennifer, if it's a doorway for you, and if it's more accessible, and it makes more sense, it's absolutely fine. And it's certainly paired, right, like in the same breath in the Mangala Sutta, that contentment and gratitude, they definitely go together. So that's my Buddhist answer at this point.
And I'll just add that for me, contentment is an experience, and gratitude is a reflection. Like with gratitude, I'm reflecting and thinking, oh, I'm so grateful. I have this requisite in life, or this has happened, or that has happened, or whatever. So one is more of a sort of mental reflection, and the other is a feeling. And I'm just remembering you saying, I'm trying to be content, and that sort of is jarring me. I think it'll be useful to not look at it in that way of trying to be content. Like if you're directing, like when I'm with my breath and I'm noticing this pleasant feeling of the breath, then contentment's just there, because I'm directing my mind. I'm directing my mind to that, to this cup half full, to this pleasant aspect of the breath. And then there's a feeling of contentment that arises of where I put my attention. And that's going to be our next topic, is wise attention or wise reflection. But it's just directing my mind to the cup half full of whatever the experience is that's going on. Then it just arises. We don't have to, this sort of relates to Sujata's thing of effort. When you say, how do I'm trying to be content and it's not working. Well, then, then that's that feeling of sweat of the brow kind of efforting.
And Ajahn Brahm, he's the one to me that he's just genius in this, and this is really, really, really his practice. And I think it's the way he teaches other people to meditate. And it's not the power of positive thinking. It's not. It's genuinely like this box that Sanghamitta is referring to of his sayings. And my favorite one so far is, if you want to be happy, like if you want to be content in life, he says, lower your expectations. That's what he says. So, I was listening to a talk, and it was at the beginning of the 3-month retreat, and so it directed specifically to his monks. And this to me is that trying to be content. It's like, no, just no matter what's happening, incline the mind to something in it that is okay, good enough. And then he fleshes out this example. You sit down to meditate, and the mind's doing a lot of thinking. So he's like, okay, the mind's thinking, but at least the mind's thinking about the Dhamma. And then he goes, and if it turns out your mind's not thinking about the Dhamma, well, at least the mind's not thinking about disrobing. Like he just keeps lowering the expectation. And this takes out that trying part. It just getting down to where it is actually real. And he goes farther. He goes, and so the mind is thinking about disrobing. Then he takes the bar lower. He goes, so I'm not thinking about disrobing today. You know, and it's genius. It's absolute genius. It's something that we all can do. That just get very, very real. Okay, it's my mind's a mess, but here I am, noticing it's a mess. And then you do the Aya Chanda thing of like, okay, so can I have like some more acceptance of this mess than maybe I've ever had before? And you'll feel it in the body of like, it's not, you know, it's not beautiful, but here it is, and here, you know, here's the attempt, you know, just, I don't know if that's useful. It really speaks to me, and I was cracking up laughing. Well, at least I'm not thinking of disrobing today. And you know, I'm sure he could have gone on, like, well, I am thinking about it today, but not like right now I'm meditating. I'm not disrobing. You know, just go down, down, down to where it gets real. And then, so this is not a veneer, an overlay of the power of positive thinking. It's the opposite. It's peeling the mind back, 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 back to where there's some true acknowledgement and acceptance of, even though it's a mess. Yeah.
I'm giving you some, oh, Sujata?
Yeah, I hate to jump in again, but the lowering of expectations reminds me of something I've heard that Ajahn Chah said, and that was, don't try to be a 10-wheel dump truck when all you are is a little wheelbarrow. And that's just some, you know, that it's just stuck with me. I really like that imagery.
Great. So Jennifer, is that giving you some ideas?
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely helped put a little bit more perspective on it.
Great. Okay, we're getting near the end. Any last comments, questions?
I have one question.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah,
Geraldine.
I hopefully explain clear because my English is not really good. But how do not contaminate your present when you receive the environment or the other people different behavior or different attitudes or words in your present when you try keep really positive and you have gratitude in your day when you receive that thing in your environment. How don't contaminate it with that?
Yeah. So a big thing is not taking it personally, seeing their behavior as their behavior, you know, and not sort of personal to you. So, and the Buddha encourages us to have compassion. You know, either first of all to see, is there a positive aspect of the person? So if they have some kind of a positive aspect, then focus, again, that's focusing on the cup half full instead of focusing on their negative behavior. Focus on some aspect of their behavior that's positive. But if they have no redeeming qualities, then to have some compassion, because they must be like living in hell at the present moment,
Right.
with all this negativity. Yeah, so, you know, again, if there's something that can be done to change the situation, you know, then you can try and put that into place. But if this is just the reality and you know, you're stuck with that and you're stuck with that work environment because you can't get another job at the moment or whatever, then you can decrease your own suffering by not taking it personally and by feeling compassion for them with their suffering.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
And the Buddha does talk a lot about as much as possible, and it's not always, sometimes people that have challenging energies that impact us are in our families or maybe even someone we're living with or working with,
Yes.
But as much as possible to counter that by having other people, interacting with other people that really support us and nourish us and don't have that kind of effect. The Buddha talks about this a lot, that the effect that the people around us have on us is a very real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so if this is happening at work, just make sure your
Yes.
non-work environment is as positive as
Yeah.
you can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you.
Mudita.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the talk on contentment, and I just kind of became aware if I say I'm grateful and I'm content. The difference between the two, for me, I'm grateful was something kind of an action or something, but I'm content is deeper.
Mm.
Content was a following through of my gratitude, and contentment is in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful, it kind of made me aware of the difference when the lady said we didn't hear as much gratitude compared to contentment, and it just went realize a little bit the difference between the gratitude and contentment to reinforce the present moment. Just my
Thank you.
grateful and content.
Okay, we'll end with metta, unconditional love. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be loving. May you feel ease. May you be safe. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May no harm come to you. May you meet with spiritual success. May you have the patience. May you have the strength, the courage, the inner clarity and the wisdom to meet and overcome the inevitable problems in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable frustrations in life, and to meet and overcome the inevitable failures in life. May the whole of our hearts be filled with loving friendliness. May every cell in our bodies be filled with loving friendliness. May every level of our consciousness be purified by loving friendliness. May we build a healthy, happy aura of loving friendliness all around us, through which no evil thought, word, or deed, or any form of harm may penetrate, but from which loving friendliness may radiate in all directions, and may we be protected. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Therese,
Lorraine,
Liz,
Sarah,
Blair,
Andy,
Alex,
Vladimir,
Teresa, Joe.
may all beings be well and happy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.